everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium, and today I am super excited to have Lorraine back on my channel of Scorpio Rising Astrology. Before you even think about you don't understand astrology, just sit down, grab a drink, grab a pillow to get comfortable, because we are about to rock your world. Because she just told me some things. I'm like, my God, we need to turn the recorder on and start recording this. This is pertinent. This is about politics, but it's also about your life. It's also about the world. It's about everything. We're going to tie it all up and give you a really good message that's really going to help you understand what the bejesus is going on, because I love that about Lorraine. She talks in plain English, and she's going to explain things to you so that you can really have a better understanding of it. And with understanding comes calm, right? Thank you so much, Lorraine, for coming back on my channel. How have you been?
I've been great, Susan. I've been busy doing readings, and they've all been wonderful. I've really enjoyed every single one of you out there who I've already read. Thank you so much for trusting me. You know who you are. But it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm so excited to continue.
Well, let me just say that she's booked. Yeah, I'm sorry to say this. I'm really sorry to say this, but she's literally booked to the end of the year. So I'm sorry. But you're going to get help right now. Believe me when I say she's going to tell you things the light bulb's going to go off and things are going to make sense. And I really think it's going to make you feel calmer and really and truly, knowledge is power, right? So let's dive in. Today, it happens to be for the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which doesn't make any sense to you. It doesn't matter, because how she also describes that is that it's going to shake us up to wake us up. Shake us up to wake us up.
I did take a look at what's going on in Donald Trump's chart right now with the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
And Uranus conjunction. Poor Donald. Okay. So the eclipse happened to take place in Donald's 8th house. The 8th house, you're going to love this, is the house of death and rebirth, taxes, other people's money, sex, okay, fraud. And so it's like we're seeing sex, lies, and videotape in the astrology chart. This is exactly what's going on now. The eclipse energy is bringing this all out.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Wow.
Bringing it all out. It's going to be talked about. It's going to be shown for what it is, right? And that is not going to be good for Trump. You know, and the 8th house, of course, is also the house of death and rebirth. He's got Neptune in there also. It's a mental decline. He's circling the drain, you know, for entertainment purposes only. And it's only going to get worse. Neptune right now is forming what we call, I'm not even going to tell you what we call it, but it's forming a very difficult aspect to his ascendant. And it is confusion, mental confusion.
Wow.
And, you know, it's not seeing reality.
Mm.
And it's just even a sense of being foggy about who you are. You know, he has delusions that he's still the president.
That's true.
You know, and so we have that in there with the eclipse energy. And what was it doing? So the eclipse energy was opposing his Jupiter. So what's Jupiter? The law. And it's in his 2nd house of values and his personal money. So, you know, the eclipse is just bringing all that stuff that we talked about out and bringing it to the forefront via the law, via the court, right?
Wow.
And the most alarming thing for Donald Trump, well, now there's a lot. There's a lot that's alarming for him in the chart. So let's talk about Jupiter-Uranus. It is in his 9th house of the law. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wait, and that's what we've just been talking about. That's the blow it up, shake it up to wake it up.
Expose it. It's exposure, right?
Wow.
So it's in his 9th house. That is the law. And it's starting to form what we call a square aspect, which is very, very challenging to his Mars and his ascendant.
Couldn't
And
happen
it's
to a
going
better
to,
person.
yeah, and it's going to be doing this. Well, Jupiter Uranus is going to be doing it through the summer, but then Uranus is going to be making this aspect for the next couple of years. He's going to be in court. If he survives this, he's going to be in court
For years.
for years. Yeah. So, you know, he has a couple of good little aspects in there. I think he's getting some little wins. Like, for example, I don't think the documents case is going anywhere because he's got Aileen Cannon. And she's gonna slow step this into oblivion. And, you know, so I have a feeling that might be a little win for him. But overall, the energy is so bad because Uranus and Mars is extreme anger, extreme events, explosive. Okay. So I don't think he's going to be able to control himself for all these months that he's going to be under the gun and
No,
under the
I don't see
microscope.
it. I don't see it.
And it's coming up to conjunct the very top of his chart, which we call the midheaven, which is our reputation in the world, which is our career.
Wow.
Now, I got to tell you, many people face a downfall when Uranus makes that conjunction to their midheaven. And it is conjuncting that midheaven and squaring his Mars and his ascendant all during the election. There's no way this man is going to win the election. And even though he does have a Jupiter Sun conjunction, which is normally for normal people, that's good, right? It brings us luck and benefits. And if he didn't have any of those other things going on, I'd say, oh, he could win this. Okay. But you cannot discount Uranus trumps Jupiter. Okay. And so you've got this intense energy of pressure and explosive energy. I mean, he could have a stroke.
That's what I was just going to say, right?
Very easily he could have a stroke. Yeah. I mean, and then to top it all off, Saturn is going to be forming extreme pressure on his sun, his moon, his north node, and his own personal Uranus for about the next year, because Saturn is going to turn retrograde. It's going to come right up and touch his Uranus, I believe, and maybe his node, and then it's going to go back again. So it's going to keep going back and forth. And this is extended periods of, extreme pressure and not good outcomes for him. And where is Saturn right now? Well, right now, it's in his 7th house. And that is another house that rules the law, but it's also open enemies. Okay. Yes. You have to pay the piper for what you've done.
Karma.
Karma is coming for him. And I mean, it's squaring his personal planets. It's causing a T-square. It will. It's not at the moment, but it's going to be coming up, on and off through the next year. And that is extreme pressure. It's his sun, it's his Saturn, affects his home life. I swear, the marriage probably is going to not last. Yeah. But and how he's seen in the eyes of the world, it's a downfall. It's a downfall.
His reputation.
But what I worry about the most with him is Neptune in the 8th house, because that is the house of endings and beginnings and death and rebirth. And I think if it's not dementia, he has some kind of mental. Well, his chart indicates that he's a sociopath and a chronic liar. Okay, that's in his chart. Neptune is squaring Mercury. He could not tell the truth, if he had fire.
Neptune is squaring Mercury?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
Yep. It's like, because he doesn't care. He has no empathy.
No, he has no empathy.
Has no empathy whatsoever. And, with Neptune squaring Mercury, you're not thinking right anyway. All you're thinking about, I don't know, is doing crime and, frauding people,
Getting away with things. Yeah.
away things, yeah, hidden, because Neptune is beneath the surface, but Neptune is in his second house of money too. So that's what he's sort of doing. He's being very deceptive with his money. He's been defrauding people, so it's interesting. Well, it's not, it's kind of sad actually, I believe me, I don't have any wonderful feelings about Donald Trump, but you kind of hate to see what you see is coming up with any human being.
It's almost
right?
like you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. It's kind of that kind of energy. Like, this is so bad, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah. But I think his mental,
but he kind of asked for this. He's doubled down on all these, like, so if you had these aspects in your chart and you went to somebody great like Lorraine would say, you have these aspects in your chart. Let's talk about how they're expressing themselves. Because, one thing I learned about astrology that I never knew is that, like, so as a Virgo, right? So you could have the lowest kind of energy of a Virgo energy. Then you could have kind of the middle, and you can have the highest. What part of your sign are you expressing? Did you learn your lessons, right? If you learn your lessons, then you're not, maybe the micromanager, critical, Virgo that people think we are. Well, I worked through those things, right? Now I'm not that person anymore. I'm this kind of Virgo, and then I'm this kind of Virgo. This guy could have worked through his terrible, terrible aspects. He could have, but he chose not to. He doubled down on them. That's why it's all coming for him. That's why it's built up and built up and built up his whole life. And now the karmic debt is due, and it will be paid. It will not be denied, is what I get.
You're right. And, here's the thing. He has Pluto and Mars in that 12th house. Now, traditionally, that is the house of spirituality, right? But it's also the house of self-undoing. Okay. It's the house of secrets. It's the house of criminality. It's the house of corruption. So he could have utilized that Pluto and that Mars energy to do good. He could have made a huge difference. He chose not to. He chose poorly. Okay. He thought it was working for him, and it did work for him because he's gotten away with everything. But karma is coming. Karma in the form of Saturn and Uranus and Neptune and all these other planets. So, and also he has Pluto that just went into his 6th house of health. Okay. That's going to change things for him. That's going to make a change. I don't know how that is going to affect him, but anytime you have a planet like Pluto in one of your houses, it's working beneath the surface to do its thing. And the 6th house does rule your health and your routines and your work. So, that is contributing, I believe, to his physical state, which is just deteriorating.
He was undoing. They just keep saying undoing. And then you finally said the 12th house is your undoing.
Yeah. And it's beneath the surface, things that we haven't seen. And it's going to be opened up like a can opener, and all these worms are coming out. He can't hide it anymore. He's been fraudulent all his life. He's been, duping people and scamming people. Yeah. So this is all going to come out. And this is what I love about astrology. Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in the 9th house of the law. Okay. Jupiter rules the law. Uranus is bringing us surprises and explosive information. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't, and then it's going to move into his house of reputation and his standing, and his job. He there's no way he's going to win the presidency. No way. No. Absolutely. I'm not even sure he's going to make it that long as far as his health is concerned, to be honest.
Yeah. That's what I've seen too.
Yeah. I don't know if that means that mentally he's just going to be incapable, or he ends up in hospital. If he has a stroke, but either way, karma is coming for him. Yeah. It could either be through the courts or through his health.
Yeah.
So, and you know what's interesting? Donald Trump's chart Vladimir Putin's chart and Benjamin Netanyahu's chart all have similar themes going on right now.
Really?
They
Really?
do. They do. For example, Putin, the eclipse is taking place in his 6th house of health, and it's opposing 1, 2, 3, 4 of his planets in his 12th house. This is a hidden health issue. It's a hidden health issue that this eclipse is going to bring to the front, that people are finally going to know about. He's been hiding it for a long time, but the eclipse is going to, like, he can't hide it anymore. He just can't hide it anymore. And Uranus and Jupiter are in his 7th house. That's of his enemies, okay? He's going to be very warlike. And it's going to be, it already has conjuncted his Jupiter, which has made him escalate the war in Ukraine. And I believe his fingerprints are all over the Middle East also.
I do too. I do
Yeah.
too.
So, he has all that going on, and, there's no way that he's going to continue to be able to rule in the manner in which he has, because Jupiter and Uranus are squaring his Pluto and his midheaven. Again, his reputation, his career, how he's seen. And I think he's going to come to a very interesting demise. Okay.
And that energy is like, so the eclipse could be 6 months after the eclipse. The energy lasts 6 months, a year.
6 to 12 months. I find a lot of people
year.
say it's just 6 months, but I give it a year sometimes. But
Okay.
this Uranus, Jupiter squaring that Pluto and his midheaven, it's now. It's now. So something's going to give. He's going to do something. It's a power grab of some sort, I think. So we're going to watch for that over the next period of time. But it's going to be his self-undoing as well.
Right.
Because he also is another one who has a loaded 12th house of secrets. He's got a lot of secrets going on there. And that eclipse opposed his Saturn and his Neptune and his Mercury, almost opposed his Sun, kind of opposed his Sun. So that's not great energy. That's not great energy. So an awful lot is going to come out that's hidden and that he has been doing. And I think it's information of what he has been doing, not just to his own country or Ukraine, but to the United States as well. Because that Jupiter Uranus is in the 7th house of open enemies. And I consider the United States to be an open enemy of Putin, not the Russian people. They're lovely people, but Putin himself, right? So he's being hit. And he's also got that Saturn-Mars conjunction had occurred in his 4th house of home. So why is this important? Because I'm thinking homeland is Russia. And they said that there's a region, Belgorod or Belgorod or something.
Yeah, Belgorod.
Yeah, that's having terrible impact. Whatever he's doing in Ukraine is having a terrible impact on this region. And I think there's some flooding or something going on. So, he's falling out of favor with the people, with his people. Yes. And when Saturn later this summer squares Mars, it's going to be a problem for him. It's going to be a problem. So I'm not sure how it's going to affect him, but Mars is in the 2nd house of values. Okay. So I think that it's going to be a wake-up call for Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
And not in a really kind manner either. No. But I do expect him to escalate whatever he's going to do, not only in Ukraine, but also in the Middle East too.
Right.
So, but that eclipse energy, he's headed for a downfall.
Right.
Trump's headed for a downfall. He's headed for a downfall. And guess who else is? Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay. The eclipse opposed his Neptune and his moon in his 10th house of public reputation. It's going to take away, nobody's going to love him anymore. Okay. it's just clearing, bringing all of that out for all his people to see, and they're going to oust him. They want him out of there.
Yeah,
I
I
don't,
agree.
you know, and Jupiter Uranus is okay. It's going to be squaring, meaning challenging his midheaven again later on, coming up around the same time of Trump's downfall. So these three people, these
They're
three
linked.
global players, karma is sort of coming to embrace them and going to flush them down the toilet, kind of. Okay. You can't run from karma. You cannot run from karma.
Not forever. Not forever. They've been running from it, but
They have been, but it catches up with you.
yeah.
It
It's
does
interesting.
one way or another. So I think it's extremely interesting the way that these major aspects that's been going on are going to be affecting these people who really have been responsible for such chaos,
Yeah.
And death and destruction. And it's interesting to see how they're all linked together. I think it's like
lining up, like it's
Yeah.
all lining up. Like I've always seen Trump and Putin connected. Always. There's a cord
definitely.
between them. And I see one of them going over and the other one kind of gets pulled with them. Now we have Netanyahu in there, right?
Yeah.
It's like we gave it enough time. We gave them enough rope, and now they're all going to jump off the cliff together, right? Do you feel like I mean, either psychically or astrologically, do you feel like that's that could happen this summer, that we could see a major change in leadership, even if Trump is in a mental institution or wherever he's at? That would be a major change of leadership, right? So do you feel like we're going to see a major change of leadership even with Netanyahu this summer?
I think with Netanyahu, I think Putin's going to take a little longer, maybe next year, but this eclipse has really had an effect on his health. Okay, it's taken him out. Trump, I mean, he has such a bad chart for the next 2 years that I could see anything happening at any time, Susan. I don't mean to be vague, but the larger planets' energies are hard to pinpoint unless you have the daily transits of Mars and Mercury and things like that coming around. So it's fair game over the next 2 years, but I don't think Trump's going to make it to the election. I really don't. Mentally, physically. I mean,
he's not going to make it.
You think okay. So I have heard other psychics say that they don't see him going to jail. What do you feel?
Well, let's quantify what jail is, right? Like, I don't see him going to Rikers. I don't see him going to a general population jail. I see him being sequestered. I see him being in a very fortified Gitmo, literally a building that only has one person in it. Or, there was a place, they have a place in Colorado, apparently, that's like a super max, let's say you had El Chapo, or you had somebody who was so known in the prison population that there would be a likely breakout attempt or even attempt on their life. You would put this person in, even ETs. Let's say if we ever, God forbid, caught an ET.
Yeah.
There's a place apparently that the United States government has for this kind of thing, should it happen. And that's where I see Trump. But so that's what I see. He's out of circulation. Okay. He doesn't have a cell phone, blah, blah, blah. Now, the worst thing in my mind that could happen with this trial that's happening right now is that he gets house arrest in Mar-a-Lago. I don't like it. It doesn't make me happy. I really think Alvin Bragg would count that as a win. Like, he would notch that in his belt as a win. I don't like it, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. Now, also his mental capacity, like you're saying, with the dementia, whatever the reason is for the dementia, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me, but he has it. And it's the kind of thing that's going to be drop off a cliff. It's going to be like, boom, like lights out. Like, it's going to be very sudden. That Uranus, it's going to be a very sudden boom. And that's it. Like, it's not going to be gradual. It's going to be, He woke up this morning and he doesn't know his name and he's talking in gibberish. It's going to be that kind of sudden game over, lights out kind of situation. And then the last thing, and Midas Touch is reporting on this. So I'm going to give it about a 85% chance of being real. But I mean, 85. We've had people who've said that he wears diapers. We don't have that proven 100%. But according to Midas Touch reporting in the courtroom, now we've seen him fall asleep every day, 3 days in a row, every morning, the 3 times he's been in, he's fallen asleep. But apparently when he's sleeping, he's passing gas, which is audible, and there is a smell attached to that. And people are starting to talk about it, like the court reporters are starting to notice, his own attorneys who are sitting next to him. That goes to his reputation. That goes to his respect. That goes to his professional, his demeanor of being, I'm a gorilla of a man. No one's ever going to take me down. He's wearing a diaper. He's falling asleep in court. This is the end. This is the beginning of the end of DJT. Even if his chart says he's got a bad 2 more years, he's not going to really be functional. I don't think. The spirit guides tell me June, something big is happening in June.
Yeah.
This court case could be ending around the end of May, the beginning of June.
I do see that. I see some kind of resolution of this court case around the June timeframe. I was looking this morning actually, and I'm getting like June 20th. I don't know why, but like around that time.
I got the 15th. So
okay, so right around there. And I do believe he's going to be convicted. I think there's no way he's not going to be convicted. Now, I was hoping that Judge Merchan would punish him severely, not $3,000, but I was hoping that he would either ban him from the courtroom or I'd love to see him thrown in jail for 30 days. It's not going to happen. I know that. That's just my little pipe dream.
Well, I mean, it might happen, but I don't think it's going to help. I don't think it's going to help us, because then he's a victim and a martyr. And then he's in the jail with all the hostages that, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I just don't think it's going to help us.
But
I see them putting him in that ante room. That's separate from the court where he can watch the proceedings, but he's not going to have hopefully he doesn't have a phone. If he has a phone, it'll get removed because he'll be tweeting or truthing or whatever the hell. So that's going to be the undoing. See, this court case is going to be the undoing of it. He can't handle it. He cannot handle.
It's out of his control.
It's out of his control, and he can't talk back, and he can't bully. The guides are showing me that. Remember that video when he was president, and what was it, G8 or whatever? All these world leaders were lined up, and he literally
pushed him out of the way.
Pushed him. Like Angela Merkel, like just shoved her, okay, so he can't do that, right? He's in a court case with one man who's saying you may talk, you may not talk. That's not good. It's gonna cook his brain. So, but I do see him sequestered during the court trial in this thing. They're also reporting, this was fascinating too, that his attorneys make a book for him. Listen to this. They make a book for him, and it's there's a woman he pays to go around following him, and she has a portable printer, and she prints out the news of the day that's favorable to him.
Oh, I heard about that.
And then they print and they put it in this little book, and then he goes through and he excises the things he doesn't like, gives it back to them. They scan it, they remove that thing, they put it back in, and that's those papers that he's always, having. That's his little book. That's how they keep him busy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm surprised the judge allows that. His attention, he shouldn't be coloring, but you know what? Now that I say that, I have seen defendants in courts doodling on notepads and things like that. So I guess it's allowed. But, I think my whole issue, not part of my issue, I have a lot of issues, is the jury intimidation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That kind of worries me a little bit, because we could have a hung jury because the jurors get skeezed out and, start all over again. again, Uranus energy, anything can happen.
Explosive, anything can happen.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I have always envisioned him, if he does get convicted and imprisoned, like a cement block underneath the Pentagon, you know, with no wind.
Very similar to what I see.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe out in Colorado with the ETs. I don't know.
Or maybe he's in Guantanamo Bay. I mean, seriously.
I don't know if they'd put him there or not, man. You know, that'd be kind of dangerous.
To me, it feels not safe enough. Like somebody could pull up and get him out of there, right? Like I think, under the Pentagon sounds great.
Now, I am going to say one other thing, because it's Jupiter on his sun. If he still has enough mental faculties, when he loses the election and loses at least one court case, there is a possibility that he could try to run away. He could try to flee somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, but my instinct, my gut is telling me that he's not going to be well enough to go. I think he has a plan. I think he has a plan to go to Saudi Arabia.
I agree with you. Or Qatar. I think who doesn't have extradition? Somebody doesn't have extradition.
Right.
He would have to go to a country who doesn't have extradition. But yeah, I agree. I've always seen him even going to Cuba because it's so close to Florida.
That's what I was just going to say.
A little plane or a little, that's probably what made you think of it when I said Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
I see him going to Cuba because Cuba's not going to care. They're not going to stamp his passport. They don't even care if he has a passport. And from there, he's not tracked, right? Like, of course he has Secret Service people. And I think look, if you and I are thinking of it, Biden's already thought of it. The DOJ's already thought of it. I think he's watched like a hawk. I think one of his minders is reporting back to the DOJ or somebody. So I don't see him getting away with it. And I don't think he's going to have the mental wherewithal.
Yeah, or the health. Or the health.
He goes out Mar-a-Lago and goes the wrong direction. He thinks he's going to the plane, and he's going some opposite, elderly man, silver alert, elderly man found on freeway in Florida. And it turns out it's 45,
And there's one thing I want to say. I know we're not doing Joe Biden, but listen, everybody, Joe Biden does not have dementia. No. Joe Biden has a natural aging process going on in his brain. And sometimes so do I. Okay. I search for words. I sometimes stumble over words. It's normal. What Trump is going through is not normal.
No, it's aphasia. I mean, he starts to say a word and he goes, yeah. And then he starts talking normal again.
There's something glitching up here.
Yeah.
But Biden, he, the other thing that he has a stutter, and he's worked very hard to get over the stutter. But when you're under a lot of stress, you would tend to stutter. I mean, what could be more stressful than being the leader of the free world right now?
Nothing.
Okay. And everything that's going on. Do not worry about Joe Biden, and do not vote for him because of his age, because he's the adult in the room right now.
He's leading us. He's a hell of a leader.
He is negotiating. He is doing things we don't know about, nor should we know about. It's none of our business. Yeah. He's doing his thing, right? And, I don't care if he said his uncle was eaten by a cannibal. Maybe he was. We don't know. They're making a big thing of it because he told a story about his uncle crashing during World War II on an island somewhere and being eaten by a cannibal.
He thought it was a joke. He thought it was a joke.
I think he did too.
He's a jokester. He thought it was a joke.
But people don't want to believe that he's joking. There was headlines up there, and I'm like, really, folks? Come on.
And he's off the cuff. Also, Biden goes off the cuff. He doesn't think about things before he says them. He's authentic. And he thought it was funny. And you know what? 10 years ago, that could be funny. But now you've got people, that gotcha. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they're going to take everything you say and, use it again.
But I would take 10 80-year-old Bidens over one Trump.
I would take a 90-year-old Biden. I'd take a 90-year-old Biden.
As long as he's propped up and moving. I
would. I swear to God, I would. Yeah. It would be like, this is good. We're going to do that.
Yeah.
But we are going to fix this whole thing about age. We are going to put term limit. We're going to put some new guardrails.
And
we will because these younger people don't want to see. I don't blame them, but we've been gifted with Biden, in my opinion. He's done an amazing job with this country, and it's the only reason why we're all still together.
Well, that's the reason why he didn't win before when he ran all those times.
I think so too.
He was being saved to save us. He was meant to be here at this moment because he is the only adult in the room right now.
Right.
And, please, folks, do not think that his age, has anything to do with his ability to, to carry on and move us forward. I think that, is he going to have some health issues? My God, he's 80. Yeah, he's going to have some health issues, but they're not going to be anything that's going to prevent him from still being able to be in charge and make wise and prudent decisions for this country, fix some of the things that are wrong. The one thing, and the only criticism I have about Joe is I want him to fill that Supreme Court up with some liberal justice.
He will he will next year.
He will next year, but I wish he'd done it prior.
I didn't even know he had a committee. Did you know that he had formed a committee to look into it?
No,
he formed a committee to look into it last year, the year before, and their recommendation was no. So I think now, obviously, well, and plus what you're talking about with the Supreme Court and Uranus, and all this exposure of the grift, of the lies, of the deceit, of karma, all of that is going to make it very clear to us. And I think that's what you mean when you say we've got some struggles, because when you see that things are, corrupt, it makes you feel unsafe. It makes you feel like, gosh, can I trust our democracy? Is everything going to be okay? We have to know that it's going to be okay. We just have to deal with it. We have to literally, for once and for all, see it for what it is and do something about it and require our elected officials to do something about it.
One thing I do believe is probably going to happen, and I'm not saying this to fearmonger or anything, but I think we're going to have an event similar, not the exact same thing, but similar to a 9/11 event, where there is going to be some kind of attack. I think probably coming from our own people from the inside. I don't think it's even from like Russia or anything like that, but there is something in the works brewing. And I think it's going to be a huge wake-up call because we need it. Because we need it to come together and stop all the division. And, but it's a couple of years out. But I do see it. I do see it happening.
I think it's a couple of years out. I've been feeling that too, but I think Biden has stopped them. I saw these things happen.
Yeah.
I did videos where I said the United States is going to go through something like Ireland did with the Troubles, right? With the IRA, with their own people bombing. I saw that. I did videos on that. But it hasn't happened because I think Biden and the ATF, the FBI, the CIA have all done an amazing job of going out and stopping it before it happens. So I would say to what you're saying is, if we don't learn our lesson, it's coming to teach us a lesson. If we learn our lesson, we don't need the lesson. You know what I mean? We don't need to experience that. If we don't learn our lesson, if we don't deal with Trump, deal with the Supreme Court, if we don't deal with all this stuff, if we allowed Jan 6 people to get out of jail because the Supreme Court lets them out, if we don't deal with all this stuff, then I think we have a big lesson coming. But I think that we could escape it if we continue to, see justice done and demand that justice is done.
We can't stop at Trump. We have to get all those congressmen of the Jan 6 thing out of there too.
Yes.
And I think you're going to see the rats scurrying from the sinking boat quickly. They know who they are. We know who they are.
Yes.
But I think that will be dealt with next year. And but because they've got to cut the head of the dragon off first.
Yeah.
And so some stuff's going to happen, but basically we're on a reset, everyone. Pluto in Aquarius is resetting us along with the other planets, and change is painful sometimes. The birth of something new, labor is painful. You can't get something new and better without pain. Unfortunately, it's just the way of the universe, right? So don't panic when things happen. Just understand, try to look at it as best you can, that this is the only way we can make effective change. Look at the American Revolution. If they hadn't done that, we wouldn't have gotten our freedom from King
Great.
whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
England.
And
Yeah.
the Civil War, you
Right.
know, we'd still have slaves if it wasn't
Well,
for
the civil rights era.
civil rights.
You know, you
The
have to
60s.
be willing
Yeah.
to experience some discomfort, even if it's not pain, it's discomfort. Those people put their lives on the line. Those little girls that marched into that school to you know, desegregate the school, the people that's the African Americans that sat at the lunch counter, right? That's where we are. That's what I feel like. This is where we are. We're at this place where, and I've said it 100 times, we're going to be in the streets. Doctors are going to be in the streets. Nurses are going to be in the streets. Teachers are going to be in the streets. Those three people are being asked to do something that is against their moral code. The reason I became a teacher, the reason I became a nurse, the reason I became a doctor, and you're asking me to do these things, it goes against my Hippocratic oath. It goes against, you know, the Nightingale. It goes against everything that we said we wanted to be in this situation. So that's pain. That's pushing, you know, the baby out. That's pushing this energy out and saying, we're going to create something new.
I had one more thought too. The whole Roe v. Wade things. Okay. Taurus is about bodies, our bodies. Okay. So that's
and Aries is about me.
Aries
is coming in 25.
Yes, it is.
Aren't I good with my astrology?
You're awesome. I'm so proud of you. You keep hanging around us astrologers long enough, Susan, and you're going to get it.
Another 10 years. Give me another 10 years, coach. I'll get it.
You want to have me on speed dial.
Oh, I believe me, after what you just helped me understand, you better believe it. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for coming in. I really appreciate it. And this has been a little bit of a longer video. So this is what I did yesterday too. I might break this into 2 parts. So if this is in 2 parts, it's in 2 parts. Watch both parts. Just because I know people can't hang with the longer video, but it's all so important. I know you're going to want to see it this way. I'll break it up for you and you can consume it in smaller bites. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Susan. I'm happy to be here anytime.
So whenever you see Lorraine on my channel, be sure to hit that button to watch it. And if you're here and you're enjoying this and you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And we'll be talking to you really soon. I split this video up into 2 parts, so look for part 2 on Tuesday. And Lorraine and I will be getting back together again next month to talk about Jack Smith's astrological chart. Take really good care, everybody. For entertainment purposes only.